co-GLVC champs last year. Can you use that as a little bit of a motivation maybe to your team to go, let's win it all this year, no co about it?
Absolutely, Fred, no question. You know, as good as last year was, and it was. I mean, first time of having a share of a conference title since 1988, and we were excited about that and proud of that achievement accomplishment a year ago. Losing our last game to McKendree and losing an outright conference championship and knocking us out of the national playoffs for the first time since '94 really left a sour taste in our entire organization, coaches and players alike, in a good way. And I think our players have really used that motivational chip, if you will, on their shoulder throughout their off season and their summer preparation. So, well, it definitely has helped their preparation.
Conference should be tough, 3 or 4 teams that could win it.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a log jam. And it's not just media day stuff, you know, as you start the season and coaching cliche, but you're absolutely correct again. You know, you got obviously Indianapolis, who I think only has 4 losses in 5 years in the league, and they're going to come back with a vengeance. McKendree, who's beaten us 2 years in a row. SBU, who made the national playoffs and tied for a league title with us. And then S&T, who I think was 3rd in the league in offense, and quietly is right there as well. So, and then Quincy and Jewell, and I mean, anybody can beat anybody, but those 4 or 5, I mean, anybody could win the league.
You have 13 starters back on offense and defense. 10 were all league in one shape or fashion. Nice to have.
Yeah, we've got a good nucleus. You know, really, we've got what we consider 8 offensive starters and 8 defensive starters, kids that, if they didn't start, played as much as a starter. And then rotational guys, I think on defense, Fred, 18 guys that played significant minutes and another 14 or 15 on offense. So 30 players that played significant snaps, and that's a good place to start, and particularly when you've got an incumbent at quarterback, which there's no position more important than that. And Jaden Barr, who was the freshman player of the year, comes back, and we had 2 other kids that we could only nominate 1. So that was a tough dilemma, and I went Jaden just because of the position. But I'm pretty confident had we nominated Jordan Salima, he probably would have been the conference freshman player of the year. And if we'd have nominated Sam Reeves, I mean, all Sam did was 10.5 sacks and 16 TFLs, tackles for losses, that any one of those 3 would have been deserving recipients of that award.
Barr had a great freshman year. What's one thing he'll have to work on in his sophomore year?
Oh, gosh, he's got plenty to work on, and he knows that. There's nothing like game experience and game speed, decision-making in ball games. He's gifted with great intellect. He's a 4.0 student or thereabouts, 3.9 something accumulative, I think, as we sit here and speak. And he can make all the throws, and he's also blessed with a great bottom half. So learning when to actually escape and throw, when to escape and run the football when you're blessed with the bottom half, I think that's ongoing growth and maturation there. And he's going to get pushed by Dan Ziegler big time, a kid we redshirted from Rochester. So we're blessed to be pretty strong at that position, and as good as we've been since we've been here.
Talking about Jordan Salima, talk about a guy who can do a little bit of everything. He can run, he can also catch the ball.
Absolutely. Kick returns as well. People forget about that. He burst onto the scene, and Fred, a year ago, he truly was just a transitioning from high school. He's just a high school kid out there running with the ball last fall, and he really blossomed this spring into a true collegiate running back. And knock on wood, if he can stay relatively healthy, I think he's poised to have a breakout year. And then Andy Satula, who could have been the freshman player of the year ago, has probably, arguably, had the best offseason of anybody on our entire football team. And then Malik Robbins from Quincy just down the road. All 3 of those guys, Coach Kilday and the offensive staff, their biggest task will be finding enough touches for those types of players.
But they get arrested. Speaking about those 3 guys, too, on special teams, they return that ball, and you guys had great success with that last year.
Correct. And you know, kick returns, punt returns for the Jorgensen JJ at one of our wide receivers, but kick returns out of that running back group, along with receptions, you know, breaking them from the backfield and putting them as inside receivers and screens and those types of things are the way to edify them into the offense, so to speak.
As Stay with special teams for a second. Brock Roller back, and he's clutch, isn't he?
Had a great year, had a breakout year, and you know, at one point I think he was a national kicking game player of the week for NCAA Division II, and certainly the GLVC player of the week. One of the top punters in the league coming back, has a great leg for kickoff in our kickoff coverage unit. Riley Hamill, who snaps the ball to him from Fairfield, Iowa, he will be back for his third year. He's never made a bad snap, so you don't even know his name. Does a good job there. And then we're going to break in Danny Spencer as a place kicker, but Dan got his feet wet a year ago, and he kicked as well in practice as Nick Dolzell, a very fine place kicker that graduated for us over the last 2 years. Danny had kicked as well as him statistically in practice over a 2-year period, so it's just a matter of getting some game experience. So should be solid in the kicking game, particularly when you add in J.J. or Jordan Jorgensen, who set the Truman State all-time single-season punt return record a year ago. We've got a chance to edify and build on that as well.
Let's go to offense one more second. You've got to keep moving the chains. That's key on offense, and your third down conversion last year was just off the charts.
It was good, and you know, Jason Kilday, our OC, and I were actually talking about this yesterday, and it's interesting you say that. And we think it's an area that we can improve in on both sides of the football, and a lot of that has to do with quarterback decision making, coaching of the quarterback, play selection. You know, and obviously the players have to execute the game plan and stuff. But the kids did a good, solid job with that a year ago.
And to keep moving the change, you don't want to have a lot of penalties. You did a good job in that last year, not being penalized.
Yeah, I don't know where we were at. I think if we weren't first, we were second in the league in terms of least penalized teams in the league, and we've been able to do that for the last 3 or 4 years. So that's always a key.
Does that go back though to you play like you practice, so you must concentrate, you know, and pay attention in detail in practice?
I think without question, I think how you learn to prepare and go about your business day to day, the discipline of which you go about and focus your day-to-day practice habits, absolutely. And, you know, when we have a poor game in the area of penalties, and we've had some, they're generally an aberration and not indicative of what the numbers will show at the end of the year. So that's a key for us.
Let's talk about the other side of the ball. You put a lot of pressure on the other team last year. A lot of sacks, a lot of pressure. Expect more of the same this year.
Well, the key with that is to get them into third down, unmanageable situations, third and more than 5 or 6 yards, where it's third and long. Obviously, we prefer that scenario, and so the first key to that, Fred, will be duplicating a good, tough run defense. You know, last year in the GLVC conference games, I think we gave up 85 yards a game and about 2.7, 2.8 per attempt, and for the year, with all games, with Midwestern State, Grand Valley's thrown in, I think we gave up 101, 102, 103 yards a game at 2.9 per attempt, which I think was 7th in the country in terms of average per attempt against us. So we'll start with trying to minimize and slow down the run game, and then try and find some ways to get after some quarterbacks and pressure them. And certainly Sam Rees, 10.5 sacks, 16 tackles for loss. Isaiah Hinton, 7.5 sacks, another 9.5 tackles for loss. John Sheeler, I think 4.5 sacks with another 9.5 tackles for loss. And then we're going to take the wraps off a kid we redshirted, A.J. DeVecchi, who's the same type of talent. And Brett Judkins moves from edge to interior, and all he's done is he's like a third, fourth, fifth starter in a rotation. All he does is eat up a bunch of innings and be productive. So we feel like we've got some players in place there to continue to perhaps have a chance to play solid defense.
You lost some guys in the secondary, but Jordan Brown's back.
Jordan's been prolific. He'll be a fourth-year starter. I'm certain he'll be a captain when those elections and that type of stuff come. And he does a lot of things well. You know, he can play man-to-man defense on slot receivers, which is uncommon. He's great in space. Tremendous tackler, a good leader, good teammate, and he'll certainly be a leader for our defensive secondary.
The atmosphere on game day and the people in the stands, that's picked up due to your success, but it's nice to see that again as an old Bulldog, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. You know, it's what I remember playing here, barely remember, 76 through 79, and certainly coaching here. at a previous stop in 90, 91, 92, and we're in the national playoffs, 2 of those 3 with Eric Holm, a very fine head coach at that time. So, yes, the game day atmosphere has kind of gotten back to those eras, and it's kind of what the vision was when Jackie and I, who I met here 40 years ago, were in it together. It's kind of what we envisioned when we took the job, so it's been pleasing.
What year is this for you as a head coach overall?
Oh, gosh, 25 plus, but I really don't know. A lot of years.
Are you still as excited today, next week, when you start, as you were 25 years ago?
Absolutely. You know, and I won't lie, Fred, I enjoy summer and a little bit of downtime, particularly the month of July. With the grind that we go through, and this will be my 38th year, I do know that overall, so I've been doing it for a while. But when you came in and interrupted my day, today to shoot this, I'm working on preseason camp, which we did last May, but the excitement when I drove home last night, I can't have any contact with players, but I saw our guys out on the yard. It's 5:30, 5:45, and they're finishing their warm-up or whatever they're doing out on the field. And gosh, I knew we had a bunch of guys, but we got a bunch, and that really, really does get you excited. And it'll be here before you know it, and we're excited to go again.
Okay. So let me ask you about this. The Bulldog card is for sale again. People need to buy this. You got a lot of deals, and it just helps your program with a little extra money.
Absolutely, and those will go on, I think we'll actually go, this year's on sale August 16th, which is report day for the freshmen for Truman week or their transformation week as they're transitioning from high school to college students, and it's a good day. But we'll be out in full force those 2 days at both Walmart and Hy-Vee, and it's $10 per card you could use on one discount, whether it's gas or whatever. I use it. We're coupon type people, and we could easily sell it for 15 or 20 bucks, but we're keeping it 10, and probably not very intelligent. But it's a major fundraiser for us, and we think it's a win-win for the community.